Michigan star cornerback Will Johnson is one of the most polarizing and best defensive prospects in the 2025 NFL draft class. Does the film suggest that he should be slipping down the board in April? The answer is no. We'll talk about that and more coming up next.
You are Locked On NFL Draft, your daily podcast covering the NFL Draft. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast, your daily podcast covering your favorite draft prospects, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your boy, Damian Parsons, my offensive draft analyst over with Bleacher Report, and that's my guy, Keith Sanchez. He is the director of scouting with the Draft Network and 2019 national champion with those LSU Tigers. Guys, as we always tell you, thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout out for being our every day as we have a fun show to break down. Is Will Johnson CB1, and does the tape suggest he should be sliding down the board in round one? We'll discuss that. Donovan Jackson from Ohio State, the offensive lineman. Is he a left tackle or is he an offensive guard? And Kenneth Grant, first rounder or a little bit overhyped? We're going to talk about all of that. But first, guys, we got to talk about the fact that today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Keith, Will Johnson, star cornerback out of Michigan, right? 6'2", 95 pounds, somewhere in there. Guy that's been a almost consensus top 10 pick for like two seasons now, right? Suffered the I think the toe injury this year. I believe it was a toe injury that basically took away the rest of his 2024 season. And when you look at the tape, Keith, we've seen them slide. We've heard all of the rumblings and rumors. He might slide into the teens. He might slide to the top of the 20s. Keith, let's talk about what he does bring to the table, and we'll talk about that slide. Does the tape, in your opinion, suggest, or what does the tape show you, rather? What's the pros of what you saw when you watched Will Johnson on tape?
Yeah, let me go ahead and say this, DP, and this might be a clippable moment right here. Will Johnson, without a doubt, is the best cornerback in this draft. Without a doubt. And what is going on with Will Johnson is similar to what happened with Derek Stingley. Kind of the out of sight, out of mind, injury, right? And because I believe that Derek Stingley had an injury his third year, right? Before he came out and he didn't play. And then there was a lot of, Sauce Gardner and, bringing up other corners that were potentially better than Derek Stingley. And, DP, the whole time I kept saying, I was like, listen, my time at LSU, I've seen him. This guy is different. I see Sauce. I see these other corners. I see Kyer Elam. I see, Andrew Booth. And I appreciate those guys' talent. I'm just telling you, this guy is different. And DP, you fast forward 3-4 years later, Derek Stingley's all pro, and that guy is different, right? So what happens is it's some draft fatigue, right? And it's prospect fatigue, and I think it's partially just overthinking this situation. Will Johnson, when you watch him, the instincts are off the charts, right? This guy's ability to play zone, read coverages, trap coverage, do different things, play man, press man. You always call a soft shoe. He can do so many different things, and he has the body profile. Another thing. I said that his story, right, and lead up is reminding me of the Derek Stingley narrative. But when you just look at body types and even what the concerns may be with Will Johnson, he reminds me of Patrick Surtain. Patrick Surtain, another all-pro guy, like I'm talking about exactly Patrick Surtain. And there's another guy I seen in person. Like, I think their body types are very similar. Not sure the arm length and all of those different details, right? But when you just look at their body profiles, it's very similar. And then the other side of that is that when Patrick Surtain came out, I remember them being questions about his speed, right? His overall speed. But those guys who are technically sound, they make up for a tenth of a second just from being technically sound. Sometimes you better be fast if you're not that good, right? Because you're always going to be in a position where you have to make up for situations and things like that. So I'm all in on Will Johnson. I still think he's CB1. I'm not changing and I'm not moving off of that.
No, I agree with you. Keith, crazy. We have similar notes. I jotted down football IQ, instincts. You know what I mean? The ability to read and react from depth, the passing concept recognition that he brings at the cornerback position. And he gives you that both the ball skills and turnover creation that you want from a number one corner, right? We know how many times, especially with the West Coast offense, the quick passing game now so prevalent in the NFL, when you have a corner that can play off and has the burst and trigger downhill to jump short routes and then take it to. We saw him do that twice this year, playing 5-6 yards off ball. They tried to throw a quick hitch or a smoke screen, and he jumped it. And it was just like, and that's why I think I said it. I know I said it on the show sometime this week with us. I think it was yesterday, Keith. Play speed over time speed, because what goes into play speed is football instincts, IQ, and everything else mentally, because it doesn't matter how fast twitch your muscles are. If you don't see it and understand what's going on, you're not able to move seamless. Like you see guys, it's such an oxymoron when we use the phrase a guy's playing faster because the game slowed down for him. It was like, yeah, now he's like just playing. He's not like overthinking. He's just playing ball, and that natural gifted ability, he could just go out there and play. He doesn't have to worry about, man, is that cover two? I can't rip this throw. Like he's not hesitant. So like watching him play from depth and trigger downhill, I'm like, yeah. Like, and I looked at the measurement. So Will Johnson, for those who don't know, out of Michigan, cornerback, star cornerback, 6'2", 194 pounds. He came with 30 and 1/8 on the arm. And Patrick Surtain, when he came into the combine, when he came into the draft that year, 6'2", 208. He'd had longer arms, 32, and because you alluded to it, arm length is a little bit different, 32 and a half on the arms. But that was the same question about Surtain. It's the same question people have about Will Johnson. Well, what's his 40 time? I personally don't really care, honestly, because we didn't have Keith, I don't think we had a real combine. Like the laser, we didn't have a 40 time at the combine for Patrick Surtain, because that might have been the COVID year where they didn't have the combine. So it's like, okay, and guess what? He still went top 10. He went 9th overall to the Denver Broncos, and he's an all-pro. Like, and I always go back to watching him on tape, and the moment I didn't, of course, yes, you want to see a 40, but I remember that one rep, 101, Tyreek Hill outside release, he's stride for stride. And I was like, well, don't seem like there's a speed issue here. So if there's no speed problem, he could do everything. And we've seen him lock down some of the best receivers in the league. I mean, heck, he's the defensive player of the year this year. You know what I mean? From 2024, in terms of Patrick Surtain the second. Will Johnson, I'm with you, is unquestioned CB1 for me. I don't get me wrong. I love Travis Hunter as a corner as well. I love him more as a zone corner compared to being able to put, like, it's not an uphill climb, but there's still development he has to make as a press man corner, because he doesn't get the opportunity to just go and fix mistakes, because he got to go right back on the field at Colorado and play wide receiver. So, yeah, give me Will Johnson top. The Jags, if you pass up on this knowing that you need a corner, like it all right. It's just a bad decision in my opinion.
No, I agree 100%. You need a corner like this is your guy. And you see what even, because remember what the Broncos were when they drafted Patrick Surtain, right? Like they were trying to turn this thing around. They were in a bad spot, right? And a young corner that can help out your defense tremendously. We don't talk about it as pillars for a team, but it could be a pillar for a team, right? It could be a defensive pillar to be like, hey, okay, we know we got this really talented guy. And then we talk about DP, the lack of blue chip prospects. Why would you pass up on one in this draft, right? It's not like you have a lot. Like this is not where you have 20 guys that you feel like have the potential to be Pro Bowls and all pros. If you have one sitting there, you better take them, right? Like just you get this opportunity, you better take them. But DP, it's time to get into the trenches. Yes, we're talking offensive line. We're going to talk about Ohio State's offensive lineman, Donovan Jackson. Where does he play? Left tackle, offensive guard, right tackle. Does he play some center, right? Does he remind us of Graham Barton, Peter Skoronski? How high can he go? We're getting into this draft profile for Ohio State's offensive lineman, Donovan Jackson, coming up next.
When the game tips off, the NBA action is just getting started, and there's no better place to get in on said action than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game, so even if you miss the opening tip-off or want to bet on the fourth quarter comeback, you can stay in the action. And if you're looking for a bigger payout, you can even combine your live bets into a same game parlay. I love using FanDuel's live betting feature because it keeps every moment of the game exciting. Whether I'm backing my Detroit Pistons for a late game comeback or picking Cade Cunningham to hit a clutch shot late in the game, I never feel like I missed my chance. Plus, the app is super easy to use, and when you win, you get paid instantly. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 back in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Ohio State offensive lineman, left tackle, left guard. Keith did both during his career, especially this past year for Ohio State. Donovan Jackson, he came into the combine. His weight was 315. He came in at 6'4". He had 33.5-inch arms, almost 10 inches on the hand. And Keith, when I watched him, I'm gonna say this: I watched Talise Fuaga and JC Latham, two dudes that everybody told me last draft cycle they got to play guard. They can't play. They couldn't even play right tackle, Keith, because they were more physical, mauling, run grade guys that people didn't feel had the foot speed or lateral agility to live at tackle. Well, guess what? Both of them, after being drafted, was flipped immediately from right tackle to left tackle for their respective teams. And they seemed to do just fine, and they weren't the prototypical athletic profile to play tackle. So you know how we talk about with Will Campbell, Keith, I'm gonna say this. My take on this, I think that Donovan Jackson can play both offensive tackle and guard. Yes, I think there's going to be some things that you got to correct with him, but his arm length, he can box and latch from distance. Powerful blocker at the line of scrimmage. He can move guys off the ball. Really good tandem blocker as well. You're talking about duo runs and duo and climb to the second level, pick off those linebackers and everything. He's to me, watching him move in space, he's a good athlete out in space as a puller. He can go get those guys on the perimeter. And as a former ball carrier myself, I want to run behind Donovan Jackson. You tell me I get outside pitch and he's lead blocking. Yeah, I'm slowing my tempo down, letting him jaw somebody and knock him out the way, and then I'm hitting the gas. I think he's a guy that at guard, he's going to be a really good starter for you. And you think about, what was it? The Bears were a team that's been linked to guards, and then they went back-to-back days, less than 24 hours this week. They said, let's go get Jonah Jackson from the Rams, and let's go get I'm forgetting the guy's name. Yeah, Joe Tooney from the Kansas City Chiefs. So you look at the Rams needing to upgrade their offensive line after bringing back Matthew Stafford. This could be a spot for him with Donovan Jackson. I will say, things that I think he needs to work on. He's a little his hand carriage is wide. He exposes his chest too often. So you can't really do that at tackle or guard in the NFL at the level that you did at college, right? Because you're stronger than a lot of these guys you face in college. These are grown men in the NFL. You got to make sure that you have your hands more prepared. And then, at times, I think his leveraging could be worked on. He looks to be sometimes a waist bender at times.
Yeah,
where he's so aggressive.
Yeah, I agree with that.
He's been at the waist.
Yes, it's a quite a few times I've seen him kind of head over toes, right? And that's a balance and body control situation. And usually that's not being patient on the engagement part and wanting to be aggressive to get to contact, but let your feet bring you to the person, right? Don't lunge at the guy. I agree with you on that. With that being a part of it, DP, are you still hey, this guy is a top 15 pick without a doubt, even inclusive of the deficiencies? So you think he's just that talented and skilled?
I don't know if I would say top 15. I think I would still take him in round 1, though. You know what I mean? I think I would still get him in round 1, especially, I'm going to tell you, right, the team that we just talked about, Joe Tooney being traded from the Chiefs, and we know that the Chiefs had an issue blocking just 4 guys from the Philadelphia Eagles. Not even the simulated pressures and 6, 7. No, it's just 4 dudes, and they couldn't block them. I think that's a landing spot for him because they tagged Trey Smith, the right guard. So they're probably going to try to work out a long-term deal for him, get that money off the books from Joe Tooney, and then you can bring in the Donovan Jackson, slide him into that left guard spot, and now you just kind of revitalize your front 4. Now, I think that I saw I saw a tweet that said, I think it was from Nate Tice over at Yahoo Sports, said that Kingsley Suamataia might be kicking in the left guard. So I don't know. I personally feel like try him at right tackle. You know what I mean? Before I kick him inside that guard, you didn't let him really like learn and live at left tackle. So kick him to right, where he actually played, right tackle as well at BYU. Let him see if you can get some stuff out of him and be a just an adequate starter in 2025 and with more of a ceiling at right tackle. But I think with Donovan Jackson, I think this is a guy I think I was still taking in round one. I think also a team to watch, the Baltimore Ravens. Daniel Falele was not good at right guard for them this year, right? And in the playoff game, he's not block. Yeah, he's missing blocks. He uncovered, not knowing where to go and who to pick off, and left, Derrick Henry and sometimes Lamar Jackson hanging out to dry. I think that Donovan Jackson could be a guy in that back end of the first round. I think he can sneak in there, Keith. But when you look at his game, we talked about the waist bending instead of bending at the knees and things of that nature. Do you feel like he can? Is this a guy you feel like can play tackle, or do you feel like he has to play guard in the NFL?
This tough. I'm gonna say I think he can get you out of pinches at tackle, and for some reason, I don't know if you agree. There were times that I thought he kind of looked better at tackle.
Yeah, 100%.
And I'm wondering if it's actually the opposite, right? Where he may be a tackle and not a guard, which could be a very interesting dynamic to this. Because I like because of the length thing, right? Like it just appears that, like you said, like coming off of the football, playing in a condensed situation, having to be more compact in his engagement, he just seems like he has good like length, and then like just being that compact and upon engagement, it kind of throws him off, right? Like just the spacing of it, when he plays interior offensive line. So I mean, I'm probably jump back into the film again, DP, and going to see if I just feel like, hey, this guy is a tackle. And see if he can play either left or right at a high level. But obviously you can kick him inside at any point. I just look at, because in comparing him to some of the offensive linemen of the past, right? You're talking about those guys that we ranked really high. We said the Graham Barton, the Peter Skoronskis, even Jackson Powers Johnson, right? Like some of those guys I felt like were different type of movers, right? Like maybe quick twitchier. They play with a different level of control as interior offensive linemen. So I think that's how I feel about Donovan, that I may see if he's really a tackle first and then worry about kicking him to guard.
Yeah, that's not that. I mean, I said it on a couple of days ago on the pod, when it came down to Will Campbell. I'm just of the mindset of, listen, like when it came, I think when maybe like Peter Skoronski and stuff like that, I didn't see the power with him to leave him at tackle. And it was like when you had the movement skills, you got the shorter arms, but you can't have shorter arms and lack the functional strength that I want on the front line. You know what I mean? At tackle. So it's like, okay, because that's the thing when you watch even with Will Campbell, like if he gets his hands on guys, he can close reps, like he can end the rep because of how strong and physical he is. Didn't see that with like a Peter Skoronski. So I'm looking forward to going back, like Keith, going back to the film. And I'm grading him against himself in terms of Donovan Jackson, right? Watch the offensive, the guard tape from early in the season. Then watch the tackle tape against the Michigans and the Texas and different things of that nature, Notre Dame and all these teams, these talented defensive lines that he faced. Because Keith, he only gave up 2 sacks this year, and the 2 sacks he gave up was when he flipped his first game at left tackle against Abdul Carter, of all people. Like, I'm not knocking you for giving up 2 sacks as a guard who's going to tackle in your first game against probably the most explosive edge rusher in the class. A guy that they say can hit 4 threes in the 40, and he studies Von Miller to learn his bend and we've seen how he wrecked games in the playoffs when he was healthy, Keith. So I'm not knocking him for your first exposure at tackle. It's against Abdul Carter. I got to agree with you on the curve after that. I'm not gonna hold that against you. His tackle tape was good when I watched him during the season. I was like, man, like I think at one point, which you just said a minute ago, Keith, was like, I kind of was watching the games. I was like, are we sure he's a guard? Like, I feel like he's doing really. I remember seeing him get out the blocks quick. I was like, hey, hold on a second. All right, that's some juice behind that first kick step. I'm like, if this is consistent, I might leave him at tackle and just say I'm good there, especially with 33.5-inch arms. You pass the threshold. If Will Campbell got to play guard because he got 32s, Donovan Jackson has 33s, and he's not a bad athlete, then maybe he should play tackle then.
Yep, maybe we should look at it, and that's what we'll continue to do, DP. But listen, we're going to stay in the trenches, but we flipping sides of the football. My favorite side of the football, the defensive side of the football, and we're talking about the big boy, Mr. Kenneth Grant, Michigan defensive tackle. Is he truly a first-round prospect, or is he overhyped? We're going to have that conversation coming up next.
Thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Start for being our everydayers. Kenneth Grant, big defensive tackle from Michigan, 6'4", 331 pounds, 33.5-inch arms, 10 1/8 on the hand. He didn't test at the combine, but this is a guy I've been seeing. I've seen some takes. I've seen that he's better than Mason Graham, his teammate. I've seen that he is a top 20 player in this class. When I watched the tape on him, like, this is a physical dude. He's powerful, heavy-handed puncher. He's got that type of power to, like, literally bull rush and collapse the pocket in the lap of the quarterback. He actually has a quick swim move, long arm over, especially in the run game. Like, you know what I mean? Because he knows when you're powerful like that, you know that your opponent wants to get their hands on you first so they can establish leverage and control. And he has a nice little quick counter with a quick swim. I think he brings scheme versatility. I think this is a guy you can play in odd and even fronts. You know what I mean? Where if it's an even front, you want to play that nose tackle, that 0 to 1 tech, and that 3-4, 100%, right? Like you think about the Carolina Panthers and things of that nature, those old school. I think the Steelers still run odd front, in their base. But you remember the early 2000 Ravens and Steelers defense, they had those big nose tackles just eating space.
Haloti Nada, remember that?
And was it Hampton was the guy from the Steelers?
Oh yeah, Hampton.
Like they had those big,
I think that was his
those
name.
Big physical guys, man. He fits that type of mold. And I just look at him and I'm like, all right, is he a true first rounder? I don't think so. I don't think he is. I think he's I think he could go first round, but top 20 lock like I've seen, I don't think so, because I think there's going to be questions. His tape is inconsistent. He disappears at times during the game. The first step quickness and explosiveness isn't there like you'd like it to be. And his pad level can get really inconsistent as well. I think there's some things like if you can keep the pad level low, similar to what we talk about with like Deion Walker. Like Deion's 6'7", he's 6'4". But for me, it's just like watching. I had to watch on the curve in a sense, because I'm watching Mason Graham, the guy that everybody's now low on because of the arm length, get double teamed, and they're leaving you, the big 340-pound guy, one-on-one.
Yeah,
that's different respect from your opponent.
No, so DP, all right, let's talk about this, right? I think this is a situation where I think people are trying to choose one or the other when both can be true, right? Yep. And what I mean is that Mason Graham is a really good football player. And I think Kenneth Grant is a really good football player.
Yeah.
Like I think that Twitter has caused this to be a either or, like why they both can't be good, right? Like this is the equivalent of coming out right in the draft and saying, is Justin Jefferson or Jamar Chase? No, why they both can't be good, right? They both could just be really good football players, right? Like let's not split this up. And I agree with you with the inconsistencies of Kenneth Grant from time to time, right? But I also like him. Like I like him if I'm in the top 20. I think he is I'm willing to take Kenneth Grant for sure as a run stopping interior defensive lineman. But I think the best fit, and I think the Vikings are right out of top 20. I think they're 24, 26, something like that. The Minnesota Vikings, like y'all been looking for a defensive tackle for a very long time. I think he's an ideal fit for them. I also think of, and I think they're totally different from a size perspective, but like even Vince Wilfork, right, for the Patriots and what he meant as an anchor for that defense for so long. I think that can be a very, like talking about those type of players stylistically, because he flashes to me like as a big old boy, he flashes at moments, right, with just different things that he's able to do. I think Mason Graham is a different football player. Like they're different stylistically, right? Like it's Mason Graham, Walter Nolan, right? As far as your pass rushing, disruptive, penetrating defensive lineman, and then Kenneth Grant is kind of in a different. He's in a different category as a player, and so I think Twitter, I think sometimes we like to create our own arguments, right? On Twitter, right? Especially the draft community. When I'm sitting there, I'm like, both of them are just good. They're just good football players. Let's just do that, right? And then go from there. So that's how I feel about Kenneth Grant. I do think he's a first round prospect. And especially, like I said, in this draft, because I think I know what I'm getting out of Kenneth Grant. And you know, I haven't seen a whole lot of or just heard anything as far as the football character part of it. I would like to know what type of person he is, right? Like high energy guy, low energy guy, really love the game, because those type of things, obviously, when you get prospects that's kind of like, living on the margins as far as first round, second round, like love of the game usually tips the scale some. And being able to know their football character.
No, 100%. I think, and I like Kenneth Grant a lot too. I think, like you said, the Minnesota Vikings, I think the Green Bay Packers is another team right before Minnesota that could potentially snipe them, because they have a need for that kind of nose tackle type of player. And it was like, you know what? Would we rather face this guy twice a year, or we rather have him on our team? And I can see the Packers saying, listen, I know we need another receiver. We might need a corner, but we might need to go ahead and take this guy, especially because they like to run the ball anyway in Green Bay. You don't want to have him disrupting your run game, twice a year in your same division if he fell to the very next pick to the Minnesota Vikings. But I agree. That's kind of that landing spot for me, is like, I think he's a first-round player. I don't think he's a top 20 lock the way some people were kind of making it seem. Because I think the one question I think I have for him is like, I think the Jordan Davis thing might hurt him a little bit in terms of like being a big 340-pound guy. What are we getting from you on passing downs? You know what I mean? It's like we were both high on Jordan Davis, but it's like you see when you have a Milton Williams, you have a Jalen Carter, and they take you off the field to put in that sub package rusher, and it's like, well, do I want to draft that top 20 where you might just be a first and second down guy? I do think that he gives you a little bit more out the gate than Jordan Davis did as a pass rusher. I think he can collapse the pocket quicker. But I think that's going to be the main thing, is like, okay, how many third downs are you going to play? Just how many snaps you're going to play overall? Can we keep you as like a true 3-down player to be that impactful guy all game long? Or do we have to make sure we have you in a good rotation to keep you winded and everything else? Because carrying around 340, even though, like, I remember when he went to the Shrine Bowl, got a text from one of my guys who works on the staff over there. He said, dude, Kenneth Grant does not look like a normal 340. When you hear 340, you thinking, he's a little soft around the midsection. He's a bigger. Like, he's like, no, this is a grown man. Like, he's like, this is a tank. So it's
and that's how that's what I think. Like, if comparing him to Jordan Davis, I look at it from I think Jordan was more finesse. I think this guy's more power. Like he's running through you.
Gotcha.
If I had to compare, like the both of them in looking at it from that capacity. But DP, that wraps up another episode, man, of the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast. I want to end this podcast off by saying shout out to our everydayers. Thank you for tapping in with us each and every single day. Every listen is greatly appreciated here over at Locked On NFL Draft. I am Keith Sanchez. You can find me on X at the Talent Code. That right there is my guy, my co-host, Mr. Damian Parson. You can find him on X at DP_NFL. And like we like to say, man, y'all can talk to us because we like to talk back.
Go subscribe and follow for free on YouTube, wherever you listen to podcasts, to get the latest episode as soon as it is available. Thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout out for being our everydayers, and come and join the conversation again tomorrow on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.